Right now, somewhere, a person earning $38,000 a year is closer to $1 million than their boss. Not because of crypto. Not because of a windfall. Not because of luck. Because they discovered something quietly devastating, something that exposes how the financial system was never designed to make average earners wealthy. It was designed to make them believe they weren't ready yet. And here's the twist that most people never see coming: the high earners aren't winning either. Studies show that the majority of six-figure earners are living within weeks of financial collapse, trapped in a cycle of high income and zero wealth, spending every raise before it ever reaches an investment account. They look successful from the outside. Their net worth tells a very different story. So the real question was never whether you earn enough. The real question is why the people who earn the most are often the least prepared, and why the ones society writes off as low earners are quietly, systematically, building fortunes that most high earners will never touch. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why. And more importantly, you'll know which side you're actually on. Before going further, if you found this video without being subscribed, fix that right now. Hit subscribe because this channel exists for one reason: to hand you the financial frameworks that most people never encounter. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. This community spans hundreds of cities worldwide, and every person here is choosing financial awareness over financial autopilot. That choice already puts you ahead of the majority. Now let's get into it. Here's what society quietly teaches people with average incomes: wait. Wait for the raise. Wait for the promotion. Wait until you're earning enough to start investing. Wait until life settles down. That message is everywhere, in financial media, in conversations, in the cultural script around money. And it is costing ordinary people decades of compounding growth. The consequences aren't theoretical. Every year someone delays investing, they lose not just returns, they lose the exponential acceleration that comes later. A person who starts at 25 with modest contributions doesn't just end up with more money than one who starts at 35. They end up with a fundamentally different financial life. The gap between those two people isn't discipline or intelligence, it's the false belief that income level determines when wealth building can begin. Society sold them a prerequisite that doesn't exist. And the people who figured that out early? They're already years ahead, in silence, while everyone else is still waiting for permission. Here's what's coming in this video that you won't want to miss. There's a psychological mechanism behind wealth accumulation that almost no one talks about, and it has nothing to do with budgeting apps, frugality hacks, or earning more. It's about how you see yourself in relation to money. Stick through to the end because the final insight in this video reframes the entire conversation around wealth in a way that changes daily financial behavior immediately, not someday. Not when you earn more. Right now. The people who watch to the end will walk away with a system. The people who don't will keep waiting for the right income level that never quite arrives. Consider two people. The first earns $90,000 a year. She gets a raise every 2 years, drives a newer car each time, upgrades her apartment, expands her wardrobe, and tells herself she'll start seriously investing when things calm down. By 40, she has a beautiful lifestyle and almost no investment portfolio. The second earns $42,000. He automates $400 a month into an index fund the week he gets hired. He doesn't think about it. He doesn't move it. He doesn't react when markets drop. He just lives his life, works his job, and lets time do the heavy lifting. At 50, he has more invested wealth than the woman earning twice his salary. This isn't a thought experiment, it's a pattern. Behavioral finance researchers have documented it repeatedly. Wealth is not primarily a function of income. It is primarily a function of savings rate, consistency, and time. The high earner who consumes her raises is not building wealth, she's building a lifestyle. The low earner who automates and ignores is doing something that looks unremarkable from the outside and becomes extraordinary from the inside. That contrast, that quiet, unglamorous discipline, is what this video is about. The first mechanism is automation, and it is more powerful than motivation will ever be. Here's what that looks like in real numbers. Two people both earn $3,200 a month take home. Person manually decides each month whether to invest after paying bills. Some months they transfer $200. Most months, nothing makes it across. After 10 years, they've invested a total of $8,400, scattered, inconsistent, emotionally driven. Person B automates $400 the same day their paycheck lands. They never see it. They never decide. After 10 years, they've invested $48,000, and with average market returns, that account sits at just over $66,000. Same salary. Same decade. A $57,600 gap, created entirely by one decision made once. That's the automation advantage. The problem was never desire, it was decision fatigue. Every time saving requires a choice, emotion enters the equation. A stressful week, an unexpected bill, a moment of FOMO, and the transfer disappears. Automating removes that vulnerability entirely. When money moves before the brain registers it as available, it's gone. The lifestyle adjusts to what remains. The wealthy low earner doesn't rely on motivation. They engineered a system that works in every emotional state, every difficult month, every year, for decades. The second mechanism is the lifestyle ceiling, and it runs completely counter to how most people behave when income increases. The normal pattern looks like this: earn more, spend more. A raise becomes a better car. A promotion becomes a bigger apartment. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it is the primary wealth killer for high earners. They feel richer every time income rises. Their net worth barely moves. Future millionaires on low incomes operate by a different rule. When income increases, lifestyle stays flat and the difference goes directly into investments. Not some of it. Most of it. They treat the raise as invisible to their daily life and highly visible to their portfolio. Resisting that pressure is not about being cheap. It's about understanding that every dollar that upgrades your lifestyle today costs you exponentially more in future wealth. A $300 monthly lifestyle upgrade at 30 isn't costing you $300 a month. It's costing you $100,000 or more by retirement, in foregone compound growth. The lifestyle ceiling rule makes that trade visible and then refuses to make it. Here's where it gets psychological, and this is where most financial content stops short. The third mechanism is identity. Not strategy, not spreadsheets, not willpower, identity. People who become wealthy on low incomes at some point stop seeing themselves as people who are trying to save and start seeing themselves as investors. That shift sounds subtle. It isn't. When someone identifies as a saver, saving is an act of discipline, something they do despite wanting to spend. When someone identifies as an investor, spending without intention feels wrong. The orientation reverses. Decisions that require enormous willpower for one person require almost none for the other, because the investor isn't fighting their identity, they're living it. This is why financial education alone doesn't move the needle for most people. Knowing that compound interest works doesn't change behavior. Seeing yourself as someone who participates in it does. The question becomes, when did you last make a financial decision that reflected the investor identity rather than the spender identity? Most people haven't made that shift yet. And it's the shift, not the salary, that determines everything. Now consider the math, not in the abstract way people usually present it, but in the way that should make your stomach drop slightly. Someone investing $400 a month starting at 25, earning average market returns, crosses $100,000 somewhere around year 7 or 8. That phase feels slow. Almost discouraging. The money is growing but not dramatically. Then something changes. The base is large enough that returns generate meaningful returns. The account that added $4,000 in a year at $50,000 now adds $20,000 or more at $250,000, with the same $400 monthly contribution. By the time the account reaches $500,000, annual market growth alone can exceed the person's annual salary. At that point, the portfolio is working harder than the person. The first $100,000 is the hardest part of becoming a millionaire. Not because the math changes, but because progress is invisible for years. People quit during that phase. The ones who don't, who understand that slowness early is the cost of acceleration later, are the ones who eventually look at a seven-figure account balance and understand exactly why it got there. This is the moment to pause and ask you something directly. When you received your last raise, or your last bonus, where did the majority of that money go? Not where you intended it to go, where did it actually go? Most people, if they're honest, will acknowledge that increased income disappeared into increased expenses almost automatically. That's not a character flaw. It's a conditioned response. But recognizing it is the beginning of breaking it. If you've been operating that way, consuming every income increase before it reaches an investment account, consider leaving a comment. Not because it's embarrassing. Because naming the pattern is how you start to change it. And because you're not alone in it. There's a deeper trap underneath all of this, one the surface advice never reaches. Meet two real-world scenarios. The first, a 28-year-old earning $75,000 who keeps saying they'll start investing when they feel more financially stable. They wait until 38. They invest $500 a month from 38 to 65. Total invested, $162,000. Final portfolio at 65 with average market returns, approximately $620,000. The second, a 28-year-old earning $36,000 who automates $300 a month and never stops. Total invested over the same period, $133,200, less money in. Final portfolio at 65, approximately $1,050,000. The low earner who started earlier retired with $430,000 more, despite investing less total money. That is not motivation. That is mathematics. The psychological pattern killing the high earner isn't ignorance. It's identity-level fear dressed up as caution. Fear of getting it wrong. Fear of losing what little they have. It manifests as delay. I'll start when I know more, when I have more, when things settle. That feeling is real. But every year it wins costs roughly $40,000 to $60,000 in future wealth. Recognizing the feeling, and moving anyway, is the only mechanism that actually works. Every person who has built significant wealth has done so inside uncertainty. Not after it disappeared. This is where the paths permanently split. Picture two people at age 50. They went to the same school, lived in the same city, worked similar jobs their whole careers. Person A spent every raise, never automated, always planned to start investing next year. At 50, their net worth sits at $34,000, mostly in a savings account earning almost nothing. Person B earned less, automated consistently, capped their lifestyle every time income rose. At 50, their portfolio is $487,000 and compounding at over $40,000 a year without a single new dollar added. One of them has 15 years left to build wealth before retirement. The other already has a machine running that does it for them. The difference between those two people was not income. It was one decision, made early, repeated silently. Which person are you closer to right now? Here is the hardest truth in this entire video, and the one most worth sitting with. The version of you that becomes wealthy is not a future version with a better salary. It is the current version with a different relationship to the money you already have. Wealth is not waiting on the other side of a raise. It is built, or not built, with the income that exists today. A person earning $40,000 who invests consistently for 30 years will, in almost every realistic scenario, retire wealthier than a person earning $120,000 who doesn't. Not because the math favors low income. Because behavior compounds the same way money does. Good behavior, repeated for decades, accumulates in ways that are indistinguishable from having a high salary. That is not an inspirational statement. It is a mathematical one. The question is whether you'll treat it like one. Here's what this comes down to. Low income is not the obstacle, inconsistent behavior is. Automation removes the need for consistent motivation. The lifestyle ceiling converts income growth into wealth growth instead of lifestyle growth. Identity determines whether financial discipline requires willpower or feels natural. And compound growth rewards patience in ways that don't feel real until suddenly they do. You are not waiting for the right income level. You are deciding, right now, whether you're an investor or someone who intends to become one someday. Those are two very different people. One of them is building wealth today. The other is planning to. If this video changed the way you're thinking about money, even slightly, subscribe now. This channel publishes frameworks like this consistently, and the people who stay subscribed are the ones who keep building the investor mindset over time. Share this with one person who needs to hear it, someone who's convinced they need to earn more before they can start. And when you're done here, the next video is already waiting. It breaks down exactly how to structure the automation system discussed today, the specific accounts, the specific order, and the specific numbers that make it work regardless of income. That's the next step. Take it.